these Upanishads were kept so secret, and they were written in Sanskrit, which was not known to the outside world. The language first, and then it was deliberately kept under wraps, because some of the rishis thought that these are great secrets which someone who is not morally correct and morally controlled comes upon. It might be misutilized. In fact, my guru, my master, my Ishwarnath Babaji, said it's teaching the great wisdom of your being part of the divine energies, that you are a spark of the all-pervading divine energy, is to suddenly realize how powerful you are. And he said to do that to an immature mind, which is still a little bit selfish, is like keeping a little child in a room full of dynamite, giving him a matchbox and a matchstick and saying, oh, this is how you light it. You understand? So it can explode and cause harm to others, because one is not yet come out of this self-centeredness. So the main thing in the discipline towards the truth is to slowly get free of self-centeredness. Now what better way to express it than to say, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you. It's difficult to practice, of course, but So, of course that. This is what happens when the mind goes blank.
Well, the Upanishads talk about the other perceptory senses, but I was stuck at a question regarding that, so I couldn't either.
You were talking about dynamite.
No, that is, you don't teach it to people who are not.
Okay. So it was kept under wraps, let's say. And then for the first time, the outside world came to know this in a very strange manner. In India, we were ruled by the British for 100 years. Before that, the Muslim invaders ruled India for many hundred years, maybe 200 years. So, and the last most powerful emperor, Mughal emperor, was someone called Aurangzeb, who was a complete fanatic, who hated the Hindus, who committed so many atrocities in the name of religion and so on. Now, he had a brother, elder brother, whose name was Darashiko. Darashiko. Do I write? Now this man was very unusual, even though he was his own elder brother and who was to succeed to the crown. He was deeply into Hindu philosophy, Upanishads. He had a guru who taught him how to meditate, and he has written tracts on the meaning of Om and so on. Now, from the orthodox Islamic point of view, this is blasphemy. See? So, his younger brother, who later on became the ruler, had a very good reason to finish him off. He said he has turned an unbeliever, he has converted to another religion and so on, and he was killed. That's how Aurangzeb became the ruler. Now, before this happened, Darashiko gathered a group of learned philosophy, Hindu philosophy, went to Kashmir, which is in the north of India, and built a hermitage kind of thing there. It's still there, it's called Pari Mahal. And there he gathered them together and translated 50 Upanishads into Persian language. It was a wonderful thing to do because the world came to know about it. Because in those days the Persian Empire was very advanced, you see. So the 50 Upanishads which were translated into Persian went to Persia. Now it's Iran, of course, but those days it was Persia. It had not yet become complete. completely into an Islamic state. The Parsi, there are many people who ran away from there when the conversions took place. In India, they're called the Parsis. They still have their own texts, the Zen, the Vesta. Anyway, so when the Greeks studied the Persian translation of the Upanishads, someone called Aquinol Dupont was a Greek. He translated the 50 Upanishads from Persian into Greek. And then it was subsequently translated to Latin. And then the Western world suddenly realized that there is such great wisdom in this country. Well, they thought that people were wearing loincloths and walking around like savages and tribes. They suddenly realized that there's so much wisdom in here. So this guy was responsible for it, Darashiko, because he was assassinated. Now, so out of the principal Upanishads, one of the most important is the Ishavasya Upanishad. It's also among the oldest. Now the Ishavasya Upanishad, I like to chant a little bit in Sanskrit. You don't have to bother about that. But even it sounds good also to the ear. Sanskrit, apart from the meaning, has a certain sound in its pronunciation which brings about a certain change in the mind. Now the Ishavasya Upanishad starts like this. Ishavashyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita ma kridha kasya svidhanam. It's first four slokas. Ishavashyamidam sarvam means that supreme being who is called Isha. Vashyam means pervades, P-E-R-V-A-T-E-S, pervades. Idam sarvam, here. Idam means here. Sarvam, everything. That means that supreme being who we are looking for, who is the essence of everything, is all pervading and pervades everything here, which means there is no place where it is not. Wherever you turn, it is. Right. It also says, Etkincha jagatyam jagat, which means jagat is the word used for the world. Jagat. And it is derived from jagatyam, which means that which moves. Jagat, the world, the universe, is defined by its movement. Jagatyam, jagat, that which moves. Now look at this carefully. Do we know of anything that does not move? We think that this is dead matter, it doesn't move, but a scientist will tell you that it's constantly in motion. The electrons are moving. If they stop, there won't be anything here. Okay? Then the world, the earth is moving on its own axis, and it's also moving around the sun. And the sun also, being part of the Milky Way, is moving in its own way. There is nothing that does not move. Growth is movement. Time is movement. Nobody can stop time. My master used to tell me, when you eat food, remember that time is eating you. You can't go back in time. So everything is movement. There's nothing that has no movement. And that's physical. Now come to the mind. We don't have to tell you, it's always moving. It's here, gone there in next minute. It's always moving. Also the idea that I am now so and so, and I am in such a situation, and I should go and become something else, is also movement. The becoming itself is a movement. Plato said once that there are two eternal things in this universe. One is I-S, spell it with a capital I. One is I-S, and is never becoming. And the other is not, but is ever becoming. So when one sees, this is what the Upanishad is talking about, when one sees that that which is always becoming is not that which actually is, but what actually is not becoming anything. So, but what we know is only that which is becoming. So there is change, always movement. You know, the only changeless thing on earth is change. It's always there with us. So, this constant movement. Now, if there is constant movement, there has to be some center from where the movement comes. The dead center of the axis of anything that moves is stationary. Does it move? Otherwise, if that also moves, then it can't happen. You look at a cyclone, everything moves. But there is the center of the cyclone, which is called the eye of the cyclone, which is a black hole. But that's the most powerful thing, it sucks everything in. So the Ishavasya Upanishad says that all-pervading Supreme Being pervades everything in this world and is the only still point in this become. Then, as I said, when we explain the Upanishad, the meaning of the word Shat is to shake up our theories of existence and look at things in a different way. The next sentence is, next part of the Upanishad says, Tena tyaktena samjita, which means let go and rejoice. Now, from childhood we are taught that to rejoice you have to gather. The more things I have, the more I enjoy. Forget that the more things I have, the revenue department is always looking at me. The more things I have, people are eyeing my things, wondering when it's going to fall in my hands. The more things I have, the more I worry about it. We are not saying we shouldn't have anything. I'm just looking at it. We have this being taught from childhood that to gather is to enjoy, rejoice. The Upanishads turns it upside down and says, let go and rejoice. Now, let go doesn't mean give up. It means you may have everything, but don't get caught up by it. Don't be attached to it. You know, because your happiness does not depend upon objects which you gather. I know people who have everything what one would think people need. They have 4 cars, they have big houses, they have wives, they have children, they have money in the bank. Not happy. On the other hand, we know people who live a simple life and are quite happy. So the question, the Upanishad, the statement is that happiness does not depend upon what you have. It's a state of mind. If that is achieved or acquired, it doesn't matter you have or you don't have. There is a balance in the mind where you rejoice by letting go. Psychologically, it has a deeper meaning. It has a much more important one, which is don't hold on to all the hurts and the pain that has been inflicted upon one's life. Let go. That's one key way to happiness. You see, I'll give you an example. Suppose 20 years ago, Patricia slapped me. You didn't. This is just a story. We don't know each other. Suppose well, I'm not so sure. 20 years ago, somebody slapped me, okay? Now, I want to ask you, how long does the slap really last? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whole day, maybe half a day. It's very strong. You might find the red mark here, 5 fingers, till the evening. tomorrow it's really not there. Right? The slap, the actual slap, actual happening. We're not dealing in theories. Actual slap does not exist after 5 or 6 hours. But do we really let it go? No. Carry it in our heads. There is this, tape, CD, constantly playing. 20 years I might carry it, hoping that one day I'll hit you back. I carry it till it becomes a festering wound in the head, in the psyche. I become a wounded man. I carry it around. I want to give back. Now, all these 20 years, why am I suffering? Because I'm just carrying this tape which constantly plays. And the Upanishad says, Tena tyaptena, let go and rejoice. Psychologically, it means let go. It doesn't exist anymore. Move forward. Move forward. There's a beautiful way to live peacefully and happily and go into higher things. The mind becomes tranquil. In fact, when you go to sleep at night, every time one sleeps, it's a mini death. Have you noticed? If sleep was not there, we would have all gone mad. The maximum drug sold in the market is for sleep. Because now it's also to slim and so on. But basically. So, why? Because in sleep, there's one Upanishad which deals with that. We'll come to that. In sleep, you don't even remember who you are. You don't know that you exist. Therefore, the world does not exist. Therefore, we have no problems. Which is why we rest. But the moment we wake up, everything comes back. And so. Yesterday I went there, he didn't even look at me, he ignored me. So what? You should be glad. Very good. It's the ego. The problem is the ego. It's this constant, So, Upanishad says, let go. When you have let go, you are already rejoicing. There's no wound. See? So, when you go to sleep at night, and when you wake up in the morning, think that this is a new life. It is actually, if you don't carry all the muck. Already freedom has started for the mind. It's growing. Right? It's expanding. It's no more limited to this little movement around itself all the time. Now, this is one sample. There are many more things in this. I will jump a little ahead and go to one more portion of the same Upanishad. This is very important to know. There is two sentences which come a little later in the Upanishad which say, he who worships ignorance enters into darkness. Okay, this is understood. Everybody says, yeah, that's right. Everybody who worships ignorance enters into darkness. But the next sentence is like a complete shocker. It says, and he who worships knowledge enters into greater darkness. Is this a play of words, or is it verbal acrobatics, or do they mean something? He who worships ignorance enters darkness. Okay, understood. He who worships knowledge enters into greater darkness. Now, we have to examine this very carefully. How is knowledge defined in the Upanishad? Forget the Upanishad. How do we define knowledge? When I say I don't have knowledge of something, I don't have knowledge about these flowers. I don't know what they are. I want to know about them, right? So somebody instructs me, I say, okay, this is what it is. It's a marigold or whatever, or a rose. And then it's the color and the smell and everything. So it goes into my memory, right? I say, oh, this is what it is, associated. And then the whole image with the understanding of it is stored in my brain as a memory. So when I say I have the knowledge of a rose, what it actually means is that I can at any time go back to my memory, open the little cubby hole of several ones, pull it out and say, this is a rose. This is the meaning of knowledge, any knowledge. Say, I have knowledge of the Upanishads. What does it mean? That I have studied some Upanishad and I have stored it in my memory and I can take it out at any time I want. That's what it means, knowledge. Now, have you heard of any memory which is not of the past? When you say the word memory, it immediately means the past. It can't be the present. If it is present, it's not a memory, right? Now the Upanishad says that the truth is something that is eternally present. And therefore no knowledge that is a memory can define it. That you can't store it up in your memory and pull it out and put it back. It is all the time. Oh, truth has arrived. His name is Satya, which in Sanskrit means the truth. So what does it imply? It means that the truth which we seek, which the Upanishad is talking about, is not something that can be formulated and stored away in the memory. It's always present, as the Upanishad said first, all-pervading, always in existence, and therefore it's there everywhere. The flowing river, in the falling rain, in the glowing fire, in you and me, and everything. It's not something which is there somewhere in my memory in the past. It's now. Now, here and now. Idam is the word is here. Now these are some of the teachings of the Upanishads which we need to examine a little more. I'm just giving you an outline. We should sit in the forest together and think about it. Now we take up another Upanishad, which is called the Keno, K-E-N-O. To write it in English. This is also a very ancient Upanishad, which comes from the Veda, which is called the Sama Veda. So the end of the Sama Veda. Now Sama Veda is a very interesting Veda, interesting body of literature. Everything in it is tuned into some kind of music. The entire music in India derived from the Sama Veda. Sama Veda is the basis of all music in India. You know, like, I don't know, Western music, what are the notes that you use normally? Anybody? Are there any notes to them?
Yeah,
like
yes, there's 12.
12. How did, what?
And, well, you know, just like in the ragas, right? Yeah, I think those are like 7 notes. So so in Western music, it's the same thing. Major scales, minor scales.
Octave.
Yeah. So like an octave, 8 notes. Yes. But then there's all the other ones in between that can come in or
in between, yes. So we are looking at the in betweens. So Samaveda is the root of all music, especially in India. Now this is so important to note because poetry and music are two things which are universal. You know, you can have music, you listen to Beethoven's symphony, you don't need to know any language. We need to, actually language sometimes divides, but music brings together. Language divides because you know English, I don't know English, I am different from you. Music. So music is something from the soul. It's not something physical. Oh, you need physical instruments to produce it, but it's something to do with the soul. And poetry, why is there poetry? Because some things cannot be expressed in prose. They can only come through poetry. That's why there's something called a poetic license. You can say things in poetry which you cannot say in prose. Why? Because it's to deal with things which are not strictly physical and mundane. Supramundane, if there is any word like that. So, therefore, Kena Upanishad is part of the Samaveda. Now it's very interesting. It starts, I said when we started that the Upanishads are roughly 2000 years old. 2000 years old, somebody, a rishi, is asking a question which is asked even today. The word meaning of keno in Sanskrit is who. WHO, who. Not World Health Organization. Who? Who are you? Are you what you think you are? Or are you something else? Who are you? It's a question of, we still don't know our identity. If you have a big fight with somebody, what do we say? Who do you think you are? Right? The question still remains. 2,000 years. And there's a joke about this. There was an excellent English actor called Peter Sellers. So I've seen an old movie called The Party, in which he acts as an Indian who settled down in the West. He goes to a party and he actually cannot find out where the potty is. Not party, potty. So he looks everywhere and can't find it anywhere because he goes, every room looks good. So he doesn't know how it is, because normally we expect it to be a dirty place and so on. So he looks everywhere and finally he barges into a room thinking that it must be the toilet. And there's a man and a woman there in a very intimate position. So the man gets very angry. He's a huge built man, and this Peter Sellers acts as a small man. So he picks him up by his collar, pulls him up and says, "Who do you think you are?" So he says, "Look, in India we don't think who we are, we know who we are." So this question, Keno, who? It's a question of what is your true identity? Who are you? We think, so, look at this. Our identity keeps changing. When we are children, we have an identity, right? We think we are so. And when you grow up, it expands to something else. And then you get married. Although in your passport you have only one identity, but really it keeps changing. So, what is the essence of this life? Who are you actually? Apart from this body that grows, then grows old and then dies. Is there an entity in us which survives all this, which does not change, which remains forever as it was, fresh and blissful and young? This is the question with which the Upanishad begins. Mm-hmm. But it comes in a very beautiful way. I'm sorry, I'm tempted to chant a little bit, if you don't mind. It says, Kene sitam vadati prasitam manaha, kena prana prathama prayati yuktaha, kene sitam vajam mam vadanti chakshu kshotra kaude, which means, I'll explain. Kene sitam vadati prasitam. What is it that gives the first impulse to thought? Who is it that gives the first impulse to thinking, thought? When you wake up from deep sleep, first for some time you're still half asleep, you don't know. And then the first thing that occurs to you is, oh, I exist. Now when I say I exist, then other things exist, the world exists. So it starts with me first, I exist. Mm-hmm. So the question here is, who is it that gives the first impulse, the first feeling that I exist? What is this awareness which says I exist? Where does it come from? Is it consciousness or is it physical? Kena prana prathama, right? When the prana is energy, life energy. What is it that gives the impetus, the first impulse to life energies in this world? Who is it? Or what it is? can say what also. Because it's not really a personality.